Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a special video today. We're going to be going over 5 games on Xbox and PlayStation that you can play similar to Rust, or have elements at least. I was kind of inspired by Screen Rants. They had an article that listed 5 games on Xbox that you could play, and the article is just bogus. There's only 2 out of this 5 I would consider similar to Rust, and they really just got a hell of a lot wrong. So I thought, you know what, I'll do my own little video and we'll talk about some games that you can get a little bit of a flavour, or I think I'm maybe going to give you something close to that Rust experience. Rust, of course, is coming out on Xbox and PlayStation later on this year, and I'll be there to give you the first news when it does. Rust is really unique though, really special. It's blowing up at the moment with all the streamers playing it from offline TV, as well as a bunch of Spanish guys playing it too. And of course, it's been building up for this. Go and check out the video where I speak about how Rust has been prepping for 2 years to become the biggest and best survival game. They've just reached their maximum amount of players they've ever had playing it on Steam at once, absolutely smashing Ark Survival Evolved, which was the previous record holder. So Rust is going to be huge in 2021, and I can't wait to show you when it hits Xbox and PlayStation. So here are 5 games you may want to consider. Let's get into it. There's 3 elements, key ones, that make up Rust for me. It's the PvP element against other players, but the added element of risking it all, losing your items, losing your gear and being raided. Then you've got the base building and the grind, them survival elements where you're going to get the resources and trying to build the best base you can. And then third is the exploration and the PvE elements. What can you do when you're not getting shot in the face by some screaming child? These 3 elements are very similar in a lot of survival games, as well as maybe some battle royale, hence why my first choice is yes, you are a bounty hunter. This is, of course, Hunt Showdown. It's been out available on Xbox and PlayStation a while now, and although it's kind of like a bigger battle royale style game, maybe along the lines of Tarkov, I still think it's got elements that could really get you ready for Rust. And it's the idea of risk and reward. You have to go into these maps with a bit of a supernatural flavour, uncovering clues to detect a boss that you will then go and take on. All the while there are other players and teams roaming around. There's different game modes where you can play either solo or with other people. The idea being that once you've defeated the monster, you can then escape the map with all your loot and experience. Made by the same company that made Crysis, it was in early access for a good 2 years before finally coming out on Xbox and then most recently on PlayStation. It's a fantastic game. I would rate this as one of the best / battle royale style experiences I have played in the last couple of years. There's no storm, there's no fog of war that's going to kill you. It's simply just a case of you deciding when and how to leave the map. You may not even come across any other players, and you'll be able to fulfill the objective and then make your escape. Now the bit that really makes it a little bit more like Rust is, as I said, that risk and reward. When you go out there, if you are killed, that's it, your character's dead. All of your stuff that you got for him, all of the upgrades, all of the pretty much point and time you've put into him, that's it, it's gone, it's brown bread. Some of the best moments in Rust are when you come across another player, wondering what's going to happen. Are you going to start shooting at each other, which is usually 90% of the case, or is it going to be that moment you might decide to help? And the same thing can happen in this game. You don't have to kill the other players, you may even find a way to communicate and actually help each other. A bit of a long shot, it doesn't have any base building, and as I said, there's no real survival elements, but I still think it's a worthy mention. Now this one was mentioned in the Screen Rant article, and it's pretty obvious that Ark does have a lot of similarities to Rust, believe it or not. They're both obviously survival games, they both have a heavy PvP focus for some people. You literally have to go and get all your resources, build your base up and then defend it against others on PvP servers. But of course you'll be using dinosaurs for a lot of that time, hence why it's quite high on my list. But if you scout around, even on Xbox and PlayStation, you may find servers that remove the dinosaurs, or you don't have to tame them, and they've limited certain items that you can use to make it a little bit more player versus player experience. Base raiding and PvP in Ark is very different compared to Rust, except for maybe the C4. You'll be definitely using a lot more dinosaurs to soak up bullets, etc, just to even get close to someone's compound when they've got 300 creatures lying around. But both games offer the same sort of similar electrical system where you can power turrets, power all sorts of traps and extra defences. Albeit Rust is a little bit more complicated. So yeah, take a look at some forums and have a good search through some of the private servers that are on offer, and you may find a lot of them servers that offer that Rust-like experience. I've even done it before where we had no taming and it was just a case of player versus player, as well as maybe being able to run away from lots of creatures. The servers are called No Tame on the official network, and I do believe they've still got them running, so go and check them out, and it may give you just a little inkling of what to expect, particularly with the toxicity. Vigor is available on Xbox, PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. It's a post-apocalyptic game where you can go with yourself or teams in different game modes on different style maps. Made by the same development team as DayZ, this is a little bit different though. It has special sessions. You go onto a map, beautifully crafted, amazing world, and then you can, again, a bit like Hunt Showdown, decide to either take on other players or try and just win the objective, or you're just after certain components so you can craft more weapons. They have added other game modes to it over the years, but that is the core objective of the game, is to get the loot and get out. Whether or not that includes taking on other players, that's up to you. This is obviously rated a little bit higher than Hunt Showdown, as it doesn't really have any supernatural elements, and there is an element of base building or grinding. Obviously it is a free to play game, and so you will have to go and get lots of resources if you want to be able to craft and make yourself brand new weapons. But unlike Hunt Showdown, you only lose your items that you have on you there and then. You don't have to worry that everything's going to be wiped. Offline, you've got a special little area and a base that you can customize and make look pretty with cosmetics, and that's where you can craft your weapons and stuff so you can get back into the action as soon as possible. It's no base raiding, but it definitely offers that extra PvP cautionary stuff. Whether or not you're going to risk it going against other players or getting teamed up on, you're going to have to fight your way out and make your way to the exit. Vigor is free to play, like I said, available on all platforms, apart from PC, funnily enough. I did preface this video by saying not all these games are actually any good. One game I really had high hopes for that I thought would offer the most similar experience to Rust was Memories of Mars. It is a space survival game set on Mars, but it's got so many things close to Rust. When it first started out in early access on Steam a good few years ago, it had base raiding. It had the option to go and pretty much blow up other people's buildings, take their loot, and then escape to your own. You could set up all sorts of defenses, all the while you would then go and take on PvE areas where you would go and try and get extra loot, extra engrams to learn brand new items. So pretty much Rust. The game didn't do particularly well on PC. Even though it's published by a huge publisher in 505 Games, they kind of left it to rot a little bit, and it was a very small team. So I was really surprised to hear it was coming to Xbox and PlayStation, particularly as they hadn't had many updates on Steam for a while. It did appear, and it was a major letdown. It was fun for about 3 days, but after that, just started realising how different the game had been changed and some of the stuff that really should have been put into it. Just before release, they changed and mixed up how you play the game, no longer having base raiding as a viable option, instead only having PvP zones. I thought this might be actually pretty good, but the PvP zones were pretty small, only one dedicated area on the map, and there was no real big huge reasons to go to that one spot. They had others that would pop up sporadically, and you'd have to go there to deposit or get yourself some sort of experience or currency, but the population for the servers was so low and so bad, it just really wasn't getting any of that PvP fix. I think they ended up setting up some PvP servers, and the only saving grace for this game right now is that you can rent your own server via a trader. You can look for the links in the comments down below, and if you've got a good community, maybe 15 or 20 people that you play with regularly or part of a big clan, then Memories of Mars could be fun in setting up your own server and enabling base raiding. Unfortunately though, this game has been abandoned on console. The developers pretty much haven't had an update since April 2020, and since then I've learned they've been moved on to other projects, so there's going to be no future content added to this. So maybe not the best reason to put it in a list like this, but as I said, particularly if you've got a big clan, maybe you've been moving from game to game like DayZ or Ark, and you're really looking forward to Rust, then this could offer something for you if you can find it really cheap on sale, and like I said, you're all willing to pony up for a server together. Despite it being set on Mars, it doesn't actually have that many sci-fi elements, with lots of the guns and the ammo being particularly the kind of thing you would find in Rust. Assault rifles, shotguns, pistols, you get the drill. So if you are looking for something a little bit more trainable like that, then maybe you could give it a shot. It doesn't have any single player as far as I'm aware though, so you will have to play on these servers, but as I said, most of them are pretty dead now, so you pretty much will have like a server almost to yourself. The base building is there, you can still make huge bases, but as I said, they're pretty useless as they don't ever get raided. But it maybe will give you an idea what to expect in terms of keeping upkeep costs, where you have to pump in a currency to make sure that no one can raid your base. If you try it out, take a look at the unofficial servers and see if anyone's made it fully raidable, and you may get an inkling of what to expect with Rust. But Memories of Mars is out now on Xbox and the PlayStation. Another one that Screen Rant just about got right, DayZ. Of course, DayZ. DayZ is actually the, I guess, idea where Rust came from. It was a clone that was set out by Helk when he created Rust to make a clone of DayZ that was a bit more fun, and they'd set that out pretty well. They made the Rust maps a bit smaller because they didn't have the technology as Bohemia, and I think it helped them a lot. They also had zombies for a while on Rust, but they quickly took them out because they realised that players were enough threat. So without DayZ, we would not have Rust, fact. But of course, Rust has superseded DayZ in so many ways, and not just the amount of players playing it. DayZ has had lots of problems with updates, particularly on Xbox and PlayStation, where it breaks the game even more, or it's just still so janky, even a year or a year and a half after its release on consoles. It's a different matter on PC where you've got modding and just a lot more love and focus and attention, and it definitely is a fantastic game on that platform. But on consoles, it's still got issues. They've not had as many updates, and they got rid of one of the studios that were making DayZ. So I'm really hoping 2021 is the year that Bohemia really put a little bit more time and effort into DayZ, as they reduced how many updates they had in 2020 compared to previous years too. There's so much more they need to add that they had in the game before they rewrote the code for it. We're still waiting for things like helicopters, and they're only just adding things like broken bones back into the game. But there's no doubt about it that it is one of the closest experiences you'll get to Rust. Going out, finding loot, picking up guns, crafting and getting all sorts of things to help you along the way, it's really the closest thing you'll find. It is that simulation low experience, and it's a lot slower paced. You could go absolutely donkeys without coming across anyone or any real action. And I think that's really what shows DayZ and Rust as being so different. Rust is the cool guy, the fast and furious, the situation where you're just going to get into it really quickly, and it does mean it's a little bit more toxic. DayZ is a little bit more for the grown-ups, a little bit slower paced, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more tactical. But for sure, they both lean in the same way of obviously going out there and either deciding to kill other players and take their loot while you try and survive yourself. So absolutely the #1 game you should probably play if you want to get into Rust a little bit ahead of its release, as long as you can handle the jankiness of console. And before we finish off, just a few honourable mentions that if you're looking for PvP survival games you might want to try your hand at. Unturned only recently came out on Xbox and PlayStation after years of being available on PC, and it pretty much is a DayZ ripoff, but it still has got a lot of elements and features that I think I've got a lot in common with Rust as well, obviously. You go around fighting off zombies, but it is PvP as well. You can have servers where you go against other players, and it's got a little bit more uniqueness in terms of having skills. You can also have helicopters, loads of different vehicles, and it's definitely got a lot more of a funner, more arcadey vibe than DayZ. You can go ahead and dismiss the graphics as being too kiddie-ish, but it's actually got more blood and gore in it than Fortnite. So yeah, maybe something to consider, especially if you've got maybe some younger ones that you want to get into PvP survival games. Although the best bit about Unturned is you can have your own server that runs constantly, so you can play with your friends and you don't have to actually pay any extra money on rentable servers. With up to like 24 player combat as well and huge choice in different maps, yeah, Unturned's okay. It's been a while since I tried Fallout 76 and I was left massively unimpressed by its launch, but originally it started off as a Rust kind of inspired game. That's what they wanted to make, a online service game very much influenced by the games they'd seen like Rust, DayZ and Ark. There's been plenty of interviews over the years that show this. They wanted to make their own base building survival game because they saw how much money was being invested and spent on survival. Obviously it originally started out as PvP and they nerfed it to hell to make it a Care Bear experience, but I really wish they'd stuck with that. Who knows, maybe they'll add something like that again in the future, I really hope so. Other games that I could have maybe mentioned loosely if I wanted to do a screen rant is maybe Conan Exiles and Citadel Forged with Fire, two fantasy PvP multiplayer games that have base raiding, have lots of combat against other players. With Citadel Forged with Fire, it's a little bit closer with the spells, a bit more ranged action going on, and it does have some pretty decent base stuff going on with turrets that you can have, even if they are a little bit Harry Potter. And of course Conan Exiles has base defences as well, but it's such a big different game with the amount of thralls that you need to get and the gods that can wipe out bases. I felt both of them games were just a little bit out of reach in really comparing them to Rust, but they are definitely PvP experiences that you might want to try if you're looking for something along them lines. Hope this video has been useful, or at least a little bit more informative than Screen Rant. Let me know what you're looking forward to most about Rust coming out on Xbox and PlayStation this year. And as I said, what do you think about some of them games I mentioned? Am I right or massively wrong? Obviously, take it all with a pinch of salt. My name is Jade. I'll give you the best in survival games news, guides and tutorial gameplay. I'll see you rat bags, hopefully more sooner than Rust release. But until then, laters.